is here. Now, broadcasting from the underground command post, deep in the bowels of a hidden bunker, somewhere under the brick and steel of a nondescript building, we've once again made contact with our leader, Mark Levin.
Hello, everybody. Mark Levin here with a worse sore throat than yesterday. The number 877-381-3811. 877-381-3811. Well, let me ask you a question. What's it going to take to get spending under control in this country? An election? Well, that didn't do it. 2 elections? That didn't do it. Well, Mark, we have to have the presidency. That hasn't done it. The last Republican president spent more money than prior presidents, either party. The most profligate spender in American history until we got Obama, who takes the cake. So this is very serious, folks. The political system cannot address one of the grave problems of our time. As a matter of fact, the political system is contributing to it. And this is the result of 100 years of scheming, particularly the last 70 years, and especially the last 6. It doesn't seem to matter who we elect. Doesn't seem to matter how many Republicans we send to the House or the Senate. I mean, the Republicans are scheming now with the Democrat-controlled Senate to get a budget through. So when more conservatives arrive next year, the budget will already be in place. And they're doing that because this is a bloated budget full of lard and pork. And I've been banging the pots and pans about this for at least a week, and I've been saying they are prepared to fund all of Obamacare and all of amnesty. And now suddenly everybody says, oh my God, they're going to fund Obamacare and amnesty. Yes, what the hell do you think I've been talking about? And it's even worse than that. Harry Reid made sure the casinos were taken care of. You got all kinds of stuff going on here. Mitch McConnell. This is a very nefarious human being. He is out of control. He is power hungry. Mitch McConnell has slipped language in this omnibus bill. And by the way, no member of Congress who claims to be a conservative or a constitutionalist should be voting for any bill that is 1,603 pages long and that they actually haven't had time to study themselves. That should be the first test. $1.1 trillion. And snuck in here is an outrage, among many outrages. There's an earmark that was put in here by Mitch McConnell. And it increases the amount groups like the National Republican Senatorial Committee, which McConnell controls, which is an establishment entity, which went into Mississippi and accused the Tea Party of being racist, which went into all these states in the primaries and attacked conservative candidates left and right, which was used by Mitch McConnell not just to get a majority in the Senate, but to get McConnell supporters in the Senate. He seeks to increase in this budget bill, under our campaign laws, the amount an individual donor can contribute to a group like the National Republican Senatorial Committee from $32,400 a year to $324,000, a tenfold increase. Do you know why he's doing that? It's to destroy anybody, any candidate, any group, conservative, that seeks to challenge any incumbent. To destroy the entire primary process. That's what McConnell's up to. Not saving the country from a true default. You know, these hack politicians like to talk about default. They don't get the budget they want, the spending they want. Well, we're going to default. No, we're not. But ultimately, it is going to collapse. Now, I'm going to tell you a little bit that's in this bill that they're going to vote for in the House. Send it to the Senate, but the fix is in. If it's defeated, it'll be defeated by the liberals in the Senate who never think things go far enough. But what are we going to do about this? I hear over and over and over again that the Convention of States is radical, that we'll have a runaway convention, that there's no way this can work. Yet it's constitutional. There it is. I hear over and over and over again we need a balanced budget amendment to the Constitution. Congress in no way is going to propose one, let alone pass it and send it to the states. So we're just going to sit on the sidelines and watch as they destroy us? Our children and grandchildren have no future with a Congress like this, and that includes these Republicans. There need to be limits on spending imposed on these hack politicians. There need to be limits on how much the government can spend. There need to be limits on taxing. And it cannot be left to these politicians to do it on their own. They are out of control. I took the time, about a year and a half, 2 years ago, to develop a proposed amendment to the Constitution, actually 2 amendments, to address this. Because all the other threats we face, this is the most perilous. And again, the Republicans are proposing a spending bill, a budget, that would fund all of Obamacare, would fund amnesty, and even more than that, an extra $1 billion to speed it up. Amazing. I don't know how they win the next presidential election if they nominate an establishment candidate, because I know so many of you are turned off. Here are the 2 amendments that I suggested in my book, The Liberty Amendments, and they will not see the light of day through Congress. Only if the states step up to the plate and finally do their job when it comes to restoring the republic. I'm curious to know what you think about them. Spending. Section 1. Congress shall adopt. So first of all, we have to put in place, let me pull off this for a second. We have to put in place a system that they have to follow. That's why you have these emergency spending bills, these continuing resolutions, these omnibus bills. No more. There has to be a rational process where we, the people, can participate through our elected representatives. Not some massive bill plopped down on somebody's desk, voted for before anybody really has an opportunity to go through it. Except, of course, those who write it and the special interests in Washington on Capitol Hill. Here we go. Proposed amendment. Spending. Section 1. Congress shall adopt a preliminary fiscal year budget no later than the first Monday in May for the following fiscal year and submit said budget to the President for consideration. No more of this last-minute crap. Section 2. Shall Congress fail to adopt a final fiscal year budget prior to the start of each fiscal year? Fiscal year begins October 1. And shall the President fail to sign said budget into law, an automatic, across-the-board, 5% reduction in expenditures from the prior year's fiscal budget shall be imposed for the fiscal year in which a budget has not been adopted. So take this year. If they hadn't adopted a budget no later than October 1, passed by Congress, signed by the President, then there'd be an automatic trigger, a 5% across-the-board slashing of spending. Period. Section 3. You need to hear all of this together because it's hand in glove. Total outlays of the United States government for any fiscal year shall not exceed its receipts for that fiscal year. Again, total outlays of the United States government for any fiscal year shall not exceed its receipts for that fiscal year. Well, Mark, then they'll just borrow money and get around the limit. Oh, really? Section 4. total outlays of the United States government for each fiscal year shall not exceed 17.5% of the nation's gross domestic product for the previous calendar year. This was an idea first developed by the late, great Dr. Milton Friedman, limiting the size of the government to a percentage of the gross domestic product, because theoretically you could balance a budget and the government would take 80% of all economic wealth in the country. Well, this would clearly prevent that. Section 5. Total receipts shall include all receipts of the United States government, but shall not include those derived from borrowing. So they can't get around the limits by borrowing. Total outlay shall include all outlays of the United States government except for those for the repayment of debt principal. Because we have a massive debt, ladies and gentlemen, and slowly but surely it has to be paid down. Section 6. Congress may provide for a 1-year suspension of one or more of the preceding sections in this article by a 3/5 vote of both houses of Congress, provided the vote is conducted by roll call and sets forth the specific excessive outlays over receipts or outlays over 17.5% of the nation's gross domestic product. And I'm thinking, obviously, of an act of war, unpredicted. They need to be able to break from the limits. It would take a supermajority of 3/5 of all members of the House and the Senate. They'd have to say specifically what it's for and the specific amount. So not just some massive increase because they can cobble together 3/5. Section 7. The limit on the debt of the United States held by the public shall not be increased unless 3/5 of both houses of Congress shall provide for such an increase by roll call vote. So a debt limit increase cannot occur without a 3/5 vote of both houses of Congress. Finally, Section 8, this amendment shall take effect in the 4th fiscal year after its ratification. So you can't put measures like this in immediately. You put them in gradually. But you put them in nonetheless. So the 4th year after ratification, the preceding 7 sections kick in. Now, there's a companion amendment that I propose that relates to taxing. So the first one relates to spending, borrowing, debt. The next one relates to taxing. Section 1. Congress shall not collect more than 15% of a person's annual income from whatever source derived. Persons shall include natural and legal persons. So in other words, whatever source your income comes from, wages, investments, if you're set up as a corporation, whatever it is, you shall not pay more than 15% of your income into federal taxes. Period. That's enough. Section 2. I think this is important. The deadline for filing federal income tax returns shall be the day before the date set for elections to federal office. So each year it would be the Monday before the first Tuesday in November. So fresh from paying taxes, those of us who pay federal taxes, fresh from paying taxes, you vote the next day if you vote in person. Section 3. Congress shall not collect a tax on the decedent's estate. No death tax. You've already paid taxes on that money. Section 4. Let's lower that, please. Congress shall not institute a value-added tax or national sales tax on any other tax in kind or form. So we're capping federal taxes. They can't get around it through a national sales tax or some other form of taxation. Finally, Section 5. This amendment shall take effect in the 4th fiscal year after its ratification. So here are a set of proposals and 2 amendments that would save the country. And there are others out there that might save the country. They will never see the light of day if we leave it to the federal Congress to propose amendments to the Constitution because it is the federal Congress that is doing this to us, both political parties. They worry about shutting down the government. They're going to shut down the entire damn republic.
Mark Levin.
I'm just telling you how corrupt they are in Washington. They violate their own processes. They violate their own budget act. They lie to us. They pass these massive bills. They fund unconstitutional activity. They keep taking your money and squandering it in order to buy votes. Very wealthy, massive casino magnates got favor in this bill from Harry Reid. Mitch McConnell empowers himself by empowering the National Republican Senatorial Committee to crush conservative challengers in Republican primaries. There's a whole host of crap in this thing, 1,600 pages long. Why must we operate this way? We operate this way because they do not want us, the people, to be involved in this process. Because if we knew exactly what was going on, there'd be stampedes going to Washington, D.C. and surrounding the damn place because people are having tough times making ends meet while these clowns are fiddling. So amnesty's paid for, proposed by the Republicans, even worse, as conservative review.